Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel. I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I just would like to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. Excuse me. And some people I thank have inspired me. I hope they can inspire you as well. I will have links below to their sites. They're Rabbi Shalom Arush, Rabbi Lazer Brody, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Eli Mansour, Rabbi Lon Anava, Rabbi Yuval Ovadia, Rabbi Daniel Asser, Nisan Baruch Black, Rabbi Michael Skobach, Jesus for Judaism, Rabbi David Asher, Rabbi Ron Yvain, and Rabbi Yosef Chesney as well. If you've never checked out this channel before, I will have a link below to my first video which explains what M.L.M for the Soul means, what it stands for, and what I'm doing. So this is from the Tiferes Yosef by Rabbi Yosef Chesney, and this is for the double portion of Parashas Acharei Mot and Kedoshim, and I call this "We Must Remain Separate." This is really important. Not that everything isn't important, but this definitely is. He says, Rav Yosef Rosenblum, Zatzal, the Rosh Yeshiva of Shara Yosher, was once traveling with his Talmidim. While they were driving through Manhattan, he encouraged them not to look out the window. One Talmud questioned this. Rebbe, it is middle of winter. Everyone outside is dressed appropriately. From what must we protect our eyes? Rav Yosef replied, it is not only from pritzus, which is immodesty, that we must protect ourselves. We must shelter ourselves from their culture. By viewing the magnificent structures here, we might be impressed, thereby imbuing their values into our hearts. From this, we must protect ourselves. The pasuk says, "Va'avdil etchem min ha'amim liot li." I have separated you from the nations to be mine. Rashi explains, if you are separated from them, then you are mine. If not, then you are the property of Nebuchadnezzar v'chavirav. Nebuchadnezzar was a wicked ruler, and his friends, and they destroyed did the siege on the Beis Hamikdash, etc. Yimach Shemam v'Zichram. May their names be erased and blotted out. So we see a strong emphasis on living as our own unit, separate from the other nations. Why is this? What's wrong with becoming absorbed into the melting pot of society as long as we keep the mitzvot, which are the commandments? In Shir Hashirim Ches Zayin, Shlomo HaMelech describes the overwhelming love that we have for Hashem. He says, Mayim Rabim lo yichlu lechabot et ahava. An abundance of water can't extinguish the love. So Chazal say that this Mayim Rabim is a reference to the Umos, meaning the other nations. What does this mean? In what way are they compared to water? How do they attempt to extinguish this love? So Klal Yisrael possesses an elevated culture. Our ambitions are to come close to Hashem, to selflessly serve others, and we focus on self-improvement. These traits connect us to Hashem. The Umos have a very different culture. They possess cultures that are entrenched in materialism and temptations. These are things that separate man from his creator. Their culture is the antithesis to our love of Hashem, and it is like water on fire. The Chassam Sofer made the following beautiful observation. We are compared to fire, and the Umos are compared to water. Water has the power to extinguish a fire. It would seem that they have what it takes to overpower us. So what can we do to protect ourselves? So this is the important key. The Chassam Sofer answers there is only one way that the water cannot affect fire. It is if there is a separation between them. You can have a large pot of water on a flame, but since it is in a pot, it cannot harm the fire. The only way to preserve our culture is by keeping a separation between us and the Umot Ha'olam. That's why, hence the title. So for this reason, it is so important to keep ourselves sheltered, to keep our connection to Hashem. We have to preserve our culture from being extinguished. The reason why we may not feel the tumah, which is the impurity of the amim, is because we are not spiritually sensitive, or because we are accustomed to it, and that's a big problem, and I'm just adding that. One time I had a stopover on my way to Eretz Yisrael, and this is Rabbi Chesney saying this. Being exposed to a new culture, I instantly sensed the arrogance in the air. I was not used to this gava, which is arrogance, from the States, and I understood how someone who joins the culture can be influenced by the atmosphere. The only way for one not to be influenced is by preserving his own culture, through not mixing with the other nations. The only reason why we don't sense the atmosphere here is because we are accustomed to it. Again, a big problem. When Rav Chaskel Levinstein came to America, he was shaken to witness the atmosphere of materialistic pursuit. He couldn't tolerate the environment, and so he moved to Eretz Yisrael. And I say, smart move. We should all have been done that. Now it's a little too late for that. I don't think they're letting people in. So Hashem instructed Klal Yisrael not to follow the ways of Mitzrayim, where they had lived, and not the ways of Canaan, where they were headed. Rashi comments that these two countries were the two worst countries in the world. He adds that where they lived in Mitzrayim was the worst. Why would Hashem place us in a location that has such horrible surrounding influences? Why not place us somewhere where we need not be exposed to such cultures? So based on Shem Mishmuel Kedoshim Tafresh Ayin Dalid, I would like to offer the following explanation. Again, this is Rabbi Chesney, not me. I'm just making that clear. The purpose of us being exposed to the wrong path is for us to empower us to go on the right path. So that's the impetus. Like by being exposed to it, we choose the opposite. So when we see how repulsive it is when someone is doing wrong, it stirs us to go to the opposite extreme. In order for us to have spiritual growth, we must be exposed to the opposite to motivate us to focus our energies on acquiring spiritual heights in that area. And just for me personally, I know it's so putrid to me that it's like I don't want to be engulfed in that. So one thing I'm spending a lot of time doing, especially now most people are inside most of the time, is studying all the time and listening to lectures and getting inspired and and helping others do kiruv. If there's lectures you like, send them out, or things, especially from the right people. Make sure, like the ones that I list below this video. So this concept provides perspective into our gullahs, which are our exile. When we see others engrossed in monetary pursuit, it is meant to highlight the vanity of materialism, thereby encouraging us to focus on spiritual pursuits. When we witness people doing inappropriate things, we must be repulsed by it and strengthen ourselves in this area, and I'm extremely repulsed, so I don't have to worry about that. It's gotten so bad, like I put my fingers in my ears when I don't want to hear things. I look down, because people don't realize, like, everything that happens and everything we see and everything we hear gets imprinted on the neshama and never goes away, even if we are disgusted by it. So the less we can see it and hear it is the best thing for us. So that's a way to try to avoid it, at least. And it was during one of the nuclear wars in Israel. I'm sorry, I was in the middle of something here, and I don't know what... Oh, it's just a story here. So it was during one of the nuclear wars in Israel. The siren rang. Everyone scrambled to the bomb shelters. They stood there waiting for the danger to pass. Suddenly, they noticed someone in the corner of the room. He is standing there with a tube in his mouth, with the other side extending to the outside through a hole in the wall. "What are you doing?" they asked. He says, "I wanted some fresh air. Thus, I am breathing in the crisp, cool air from outside through this tube." They say mishiganer, which means, like nutty, like has a screw loose, so to speak. We are in here to protect ourselves from the lethal air outside, because it's nuclear, Why are you breathing in the outside air while in the shelter? So unfortunately, many of us are doing just the same, and that's like a parable, Although it's true, but it's like, to get the message. We live our lives separated from the goyim, which is the non-Jews. Then we use devices that are saturated with their culture. Unfortunately, I try to limit that, but it's very hard to not. Anyway, I would like to conclude with the following mashal. Again, this is Rabbi Chesney saying this. So Shlomo was driving, so mashal is a parable, or an example. Shlomo was driving his 1992 Buick. It was getting hot in the car, but he was driving too fast for the windows to be open. Finally, he reached a red light. With a sigh of relief, he rolled down his window and welcomed in the somewhat cooler 80-degree weather from outside. To his utter shock, he sees the car next to him roll up his windows. He thinks, what's with him? Doesn't he want to enjoy the warm weather? The outside weather, not the warm weather, the outside weather. What he failed to realize is that the fellow next to him was enjoying his air-conditioned vehicle and had no need for an open window. When others witness our sheltered lifestyle, they are appalled. Don't they want to enjoy our pleasurable lifestyle? And this is me saying this. I get no pleasure in anything that they do. Maybe before I realize the truth, and we all come to that realization, hopefully, BeEzrat Hashem, before it's too late, because it's almost getting too late, you realize that there's nothing enjoyable about it, and it's limited, it's finite, it doesn't last, it doesn't have any true fulfillment. So what they fail to realize is that what we have is even more gratifying, and we have no need for their luxuries. Let's keep our fire warm by setting proper boundaries. When we are exposed to their culture, let it not badly affect us. To the contrary, let it serve as a catalyst to strengthen ourselves in that area. And when we are in the shelter, let us make sure not to bring in contaminated air with us from the outside world. Live above the influence, and meaning contaminated, meaning the tumah of the people and what they do and how they act and how they dress and how they talk. We don't want that in our lives. And I hope and pray that we will all merit to live and see the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days and rebuilding of our final and everlasting Beit HaMikdash. Amen, and thanks for watching.